for sure.
All right. We played the opening clip with Coach Mack and him talking about, the comparison. It's made the rounds now after Sunday. You watched practice in the preseason. You have as good a feel for this team as anybody. We know kind of why he said it. Why do you think it's taken whatever time it has, if it's a long time, why do you think it's taken so long for it to manifest itself when he's implied it for a while now?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. My theory is that these, and I wondered about this in the preseason, and I even brought it up to a couple of, some of the veteran staff members. I was like, you don't really have a lot of winners on this team. And I'm not saying like guys who don't want to win. That's not what I mean by that. I'm saying there are a lot of players on this team that you have that are going to be leaned on heavily to win you ball games that have not won ball games at this level. So I was curious, like, is that a deal or not? Like, can you embed winning characteristics into players who come from programs that have not done that before? You know what I mean? Like, even Josh Dix had a hilariously, I don't know what word I want to use for it. It was just it caught me funny when he said it because I've thought it and he just said it. In terms of what Creighton is doing, because Creighton is not known for being a stickler defensive program. But they are. Like, they have standards, they have principles, they have non-negotiables, they have a way of doing things. And it was funny because someone asked him what it's like to kind of be going through a camp at Creighton and like what that entails. And he's like, well, we focus a lot more on defense than I ever have before in my career.
Yeah. That's
and then,
Iowa,
like,
Iowa famously under Frank, they were upset that they didn't guard anyone.
Right, correct. So you have two Iowa players, one who's coming off an injury. They haven't won. They didn't win at Iowa, not to the level that Creighton's used to winning. You have Blake Harper, low major. You have Austin Swartz, came from an absolute disaster of a freshman year at Miami. One where like habits just went completely out the window, right? So like with Creighton, it's about what you see on the floor is a lot of like, yes, they scheme, yes, they game plan, but that stuff's kind of just like quick study. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this guy does this, that guy does that. Here's how we're defending this. Here's how we're defending that. Like, it's easy to kind of retain that easier to retain that part of it than it is to embed the kind of the principles of, hey, here's why you play off 2 feet. Here's why you need to get in the paint and do this. Here's why you need to move off the ball when the ball's here. Here's why you need to cut off this guy when he cuts there. Like, that has been really difficult for players to kind of understand, because that's how you win ball games, is the stuff that doesn't necessarily show up in the stat sheet, but it's just how you do things. And I think that's the main reason we're watching the version of Creighton we're watching right now, is because it's just taken longer to kind of imprint winning characteristics into players who just aren't used to being coached that way.
So, Matt, I made this analogy, I think earlier in the week. I don't remember. It might have been privately to somebody. I talk too much. I have no idea how to keep track of any of it. But
yeah, you do. You talk way too much.
It's like occupational hazard.
It is.
So I made the argument.
At least we're consistent.
Yeah. No, I'm a jerk all of the time. It's so.
He's the only guy who yelled at me out of the whole situation.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Everyone else is like, "Oh, I get it," and he's like, "Hey, listen, the fuck,
do better." That's do
yeah.
Better. It was all out of love, Maddie. I made the argument that this version of Creighton actually looks a lot like early versions in Coach Hoiberg's iteration at Nebraska, where you've got a lot of pieces that you don't necessarily mind, but they don't totally make sense as a roster
don't be
together.
Bringing Nebraska down to make your point.
I'm not. I think Coach Hoiberg's done an incredible. I think Coach Hoiberg, and I've said this, has done an incredible job of on the fly fixing that. And I actually think Nebraska looks much more like a team Coach McDermott has coached in the past, and this version of Creighton looks a lot like a team of early Nebraska iterations where you look at it and you go, okay, I kind of like this guy, and I kind of like this guy, and I kind of like this guy, but what are they doing all together?
I mean, what you said at the end there makes sense. I don't think you remember the early iterations of Hoiberg the way I remember him, though, because there were a lot of pieces of that puzzle there were a lot of pieces that belonged to the wrong puzzle on those rosters.
That's kind of
those teams were really, really bad. Creighton isn't that.
I get that they're not that bad, but I do think it is a similar problem. Like, I would take the players on this Creighton roster over most of the players from those early Hoiberg rosters, but I do think you are looking at guys that you're like, I don't know which puzzle this piece belongs to, but they certainly don't fit together.
You don't see the fit. You don't see the fits in terms of skill sets and stuff like that with this.
Not really. I mean,
it's going to turn into our group chat. Let's go.
I really don't.
I see the fits. I just don't think they're all like they just don't know how to play together yet. So and you also have some
lots of injury things. Lots of injury things. Like
you have a couple injury things. One like that people aren't ever going to talk about is Josh Thomas. But I've said from watching practice and everything, especially in the preseason.
You did tell me this early, and because I was like,
he's more valuable than people realize, especially when it comes to offensive cohesion and kind of getting guys lighting fires under guys.
Also,
that's a big miss in my opinion. I don't know how much he would be playing in these games, but I just think you're missing him in practice for sure. And I also think he could have been a valuable player at in some games that could have changed things. When you're talking about, because everybody's kind of latching on to what Max said about Hoiberg and Jacobson. And yes, it is in a way kind of a message that he wants to resonate with his group for sure. But if you're looking for guys that do the right things without giving a crap about what their stats look like on a stat sheet, they're missing guys like that. And Josh Thomas is one of them. So, I mean, he had a huge impact on the Iowa State scrimmage. I know it's a scrimmage. I know it's an exhibition. I know they didn't have Lipsy. But Creighton didn't have McAndrew or Freeman either. And when you talk about who dominated the real game, in terms of Joshua Jefferson, Josh Thomas was the guy who locked up Jefferson in that scrimmage. So, he would have made a difference this season for sure.
Quietly, Jefferson is one of the freakiest of freaks in all of college basketball, and he no national burn.
No one talks about that guy.
Listen, he is a
matchup nightmare out there.
He is a stat sheet stuffer, and there's not much Jefferson can do. He's one of the I don't even think this is hyperbole, and I'm glad you're rocking with me on this one. He's ridiculous for how little a burn he gets.
Yeah, like that. When you think about all the guys, I mean, especially because this freshman class in college basketball
is sick,
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So there's just only so much runway for people to get praise. But I don't know, just watch Iowa State and tell me what you think is the differentiator.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he can do everything. There's not a thing he can't do. And then you look at how he's going to play in the NBA for a long time because there's so many weapons in there that for him and his size and his ability to get where he wants.
Blocks, steals, deflections, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. He scores.
And you try to okay, he's a facilitator now. Let's put a smaller guy on him, keep him on the perimeter. He'll back that guy all the way to the rim and score on him. He'll get to the free throw line. There's just not a way you can. No matter what you throw at him, he's got an answer to it. That's the thing. You can see how he reads the game in real time and takes advantage of what his matchups are to create advantages for himself and his team. Yeah, he's unbelievable.
It was driving me crazy that everybody talked about how poor Creighton was versus kind of what Nebraska could be, especially defensively.
Defensively, I think they're legitimately good.
We disagreed on that for sure because you said, is Nebraska this good defensively? And I said no.
I did ask that question, didn't I?
Well, It depends on what this good means. Is it 19 points in the first half good? Because probably not, but they are legitimately a good defense.
So this was my real question, Maddie. Are you pitting it against, because obviously the upper echelon in the Big Ten is silly, right? With Purdue and Michigan and Michigan State, and I think Illinois is going to be tough, and who knows if SC's for real. But I think I saw a little of what Indiana is in its totality against the last couple of games. So I don't know about that, but is Nebraska middle of the pack good, do you think, in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, they have a lot of winning habits. They play well together. Rink has been incredible coming off the injury. I don't know what I expected him to look like after such a long layoff, but he's clearly. I just don't know what his surgery time frame was and how quickly he was able to kind of get back onto the court and do some workouts. But like that, he is way better.
I asked everybody. Mm-hmm. I'm like, did you guys get the impact? And it's some guys. Well, yeah, I covered. I don't know, man. Rink's pretty sweet.
I knew.
I didn't see it.
I knew he was important. No. I didn't know he was like this.
He's clearly leveled up. Like
yes.
And the thing is, like I think I've seen most of the Big Ten upper echelon so far this year. I just don't know how many teams match up awesome with that type of player. So that's going to be a thing that Nebraska has to
Michigan
kind of
with that giant interchangeable front.
Oh my God, they're so big. God. Yeah. We were watching Gonzaga. My sister-in-law's a Gonzaga fan. We were watching that whole entire game, and it was just like, we know Gonzaga's big, physical, long, and they just like stuffed Gonzaga in a locker. Like that was. And it's crazy because they almost lost to Wake Forest. They almost lost to TCU. And it's like, what happened to this team all of a sudden? Like, they're just clicking. They have
a lot of margin for error, too. Like,
yes.
Michigan can get you with about 4 different guys on any night, and it's not going to matter. And they don't need to play well offensively either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think honestly, not to try to get some clickbait for you guys, but like I think it's going to come down to, I think Nebraska and Iowa are both a lot better than they were last year, and I think they're going to have a seeding matchup that comes up to it. I think both of them everyone makes the Big Ten tournament now, so it won't be that dramatic. But I think they're in that class of Big Ten, which is like, I think both those teams are NCAA tournament quality. Both those teams could make a run in the Big Ten tournament if they kind of just get the right path of matchups, if you will. I think there's a tier of top teams in the Big Ten that includes Michigan, Michigan State. I don't know if Illinois is on that yet, but obviously they're really, talented and highly thought of. So like, I think there's a tier with Illinois and Wisconsin that's somewhere in there. And I think Nebraska's going to see both those teams pretty soon. So we'll get a gauge of that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Purdue. So Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, I feel like is the top tier. And then I think there's a tier with like Wisconsin, Illinois, that Nebraska possibly could crack if they just kind of stay healthy and then kind of, shore some things up positionally. Because I still don't I know Jamarcus Lawrence is he's more improved than the version of that guy that we saw at Nebraska the first time. But there's also like games where Sam Hoiberg looks like the best point guard too. So it's like, it just depends on what comes together for them and how it looks, and then how teams kind of scout them, because can Rink win a game on his own? If another team has a really good wing that can kind of shut down Price, that's gonna determine kind of like,
I'm tickled everybody gets to see the version of Price that I saw on the shoe circuit. He can put it. He's aggressive. He can put it on the deck, man. He's
nice.
I'm telling you, Maddie, you'd love him because he's super competitive. Like,
I don't know how he didn't get run.
He's a little.
I'm so confused by that. Like, yeah, I think I know Fran's not there, so he's not going to be able to stick it to Fran, if you will. But like, I think Iowa fans are going to be really, really upset when they see this version come into their gym. I don't even know. They play the home and home.
Like that too. Like they have some really competitive, get after you kind of guys. I mean, that's how Frager played, and I watched him put it on Westside twice. And it's just like, I sat next to Robin and I was like, this guy is literally trying to give it to everybody that's on the court. Like that's
he plays nasty. He plays nasty. Yeah.
All right, buddy. And so just UConn and St. John in the Big East and everybody else, huh?
It's kind of funny because I was looking at Creighton's schedule. They have 4 of the next 5 at home. You're trying to like wonder what is there a way for Creighton to find its footing before they get those teams, and it's they get Kansas State, They got to go to Xavier. Then they're going to play a Marquette team that looks really, really bad right now. Utah Tech. So, like, 4 of the next 5 are at home, and then the roadie is at Xavier, who's kind of coming together, but they also haven't played – I don't know. They haven't played anybody who's truly going to kind of expose them too much yet. So, yeah, Creighton has a chance here to kind of get some things right before St. John's and Seton Hall, Villanova. Those roadies are going to be tough because Seton Hall's a lot better this year. Villanova looks like they have their stuff together with Willard in there. I think the Big East is going to be harder than people realize because I think going in, everyone assumed it was top heavy. Like there was a tier with St. John's and UConn, then Creighton was kind of alone in that third tier. People expected good things out of Providence. They haven't necessarily lived up to that. And Marquette's fallen off, but Seton Hall's better, Villanova's better, Butler's better. Like it's not going to be an easy slog going through that. It's not just going to be like, well, beat everybody else and then coin toss St. John's UConn games. Like it's going to be a war this year in that conference because there's teams that are already surprising. There's teams that are underperforming. How it all comes together is going to be really interesting to see once they all kind of meet up in the next month.
That Marquette thing was interesting too because I should have known after watching that ugly dogfight over the weekend with Valpo, and then to watch what Wisconsin did to him. I'm like, I don't know, man. There's some questions to answer at Marquette.
I don't know how they put 76 on Wisconsin. I was like, I didn't like that. I don't know how they scored 76 on anybody watching.
I don't know. They almost gave up a C note. So.
Oh yeah, no. They gave up some numbers. Yeah, they've had 2 Big Ten games so far, and yeah, they've had triple digits dropped on them, both of them, pretty much. That's rough.
That is our guy, Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matt, it's good to see your bright and shining face. Good talking to you, buddy.
Good to talk to you guys.
All right, Chill. Thanks.
That is Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review, one of our favorites.